Hey, what's going on, guys? This is BunnyMuffins. There are only 4 comps I think you should be playing this patch. This is patch 11.9b, and there was a B patch right as the start of Set 5 happened, and they pretty much nerfed all the good comps, which were mainly Mordekaiser and Leblanc. But that means there's room for pretty much everything else now, and a lot of comps that these two compositions countered, they're now being like super played. So the only 4 comps I want you guys to focus on this week are Forgotten Draven, Nightbringer Aphelios, Dawnbringer Karma, and Vel'Koz. So the rest of the comps, while they're still playable, like the B and C tiers, like you could still play them if you really want to, but these 4 comps are what all the top players are playing, and they're pretty much not doing anything else unless they get like a super good start for like Reroll Ven, for example. So without further ado, let's just get right into it because, yeah, there's a lot to cover. So 6 Forgotten Draven. This is a standard Draven comp. This was popular before in the, like, right as the set came out, but then once people found out Mordekaiser was OP, people stopped playing this in favor of Mordekaiser. But now since Mordekaiser is nerfed, the only things you need on Draven are IE and Last Whisper, and then any third item. I like Shadow Bloodthirster. I like Runon's. Rageblade or Shadow Zeke's is really good too. The third item, it just doesn't matter. You just need IE and Last Whisper. This means you don't need to run stuff like Darius for armor penetration, and Draven just pretty much rips through everyone because Forgotten gives so much stats for his attacks that he just does too much damage and just kills everything. You round this comp off with the Mordekaiser for Legionnaire, and then Diana for both Assassin and Nightbringer, and not Nightbringer, Dragon Slayer. And she also has a bonus of jumping to the backline with a Frozen Heart, which gives your team much needed CC. It's great against Vel'Koz. You have both Thresh and Diana to CC Vel'Koz if he does not have a Quicksilver, so that's pretty nice there, because Vel'Koz is a little annoying. Onto the next build, Nightbringer Aphelios. Not too much has changed here. He just needs the same items as he needed before, which is like Rageblade and Bloodthirster. After that, a Deathblade is my favorite item. Some people do stuff like Runon, some people do some variant of Hand of Justice. Lots of different things you could do there. You could also do Last Whisper if you really want. But instead of running Last Whisper, this comp likes to run Darius because Darius is also a Nightbringer, so it's kind of like they go hand in hand. Again, because Darius gives armor penetration. And then your main tank here is Morgana, so be sure you get GA Morello on Morgana, at least a GA. Morello's more of like a bonus. And focus on those items after you get like 2 Aphelios items. So don't like build all 3 Aphelios items right away. Build like 1 or 2 Aphelios items, then the Morgana items, and then go back to Aphelios afterwards. Really strong comp though. The most popular version right now I see is running 4 Rangers. Last patch, people only ran 2, but now since a lot of stuff is nerfed, 4 Rangers is just really powerful because you just get so much dang attack speed because, yeah, that's what Aphelios needs to do damage, turns out. So next comps are the 2 AP comps. We have Dawnbringer Karma and Redeem Vel'Koz. They're both still really good. Like, S and A tier are very close. I'd say there's just a big drop-off between the A tier and the B tier. That's not to say the B tiers can't win. It's just these are much more consistent in the S and A tier. So Dawnbringer Karma, you really just need blue buff and jeweled gauntlet, and then third item doesn't matter. I like doing hat. You could do like Hand of Justice. You could do Hextech Gunblade. You could, like literally any. It could be any item, and you'll be doing fine. You round it out with tanks such as Ivern and Volibear for the Revenant buff, and then you also run Renewer since you have Ivern and Heimerdinger, and then you just run random legendaries after that. You'll notice here we only have 7 units. This gives you a lot of options to add in extra synergies that you would want. You could do stuff like 4 Invoker. You could do stuff like 4 Dawnbringer if you get a Spatula. 4 Knights I've seen being played as well. Or just 2 random legendary units. Just throw them all in and see what happens after that because legendaries are pretty strong in this set. And of course, since you are in ability power composition, you want to run Garen instead of Darius because Garen gives magic penetration. Now onto the next build. No surprise, we have a Garen here as well because, again, you need magic penetration when you're running a magic damage comp. And best in slot Vel'Koz I found to be Hextech Gunblade, Jeweled Gauntlet, either work, and then Spear of Shojin. Spear of Shojin's really useful for the mana regeneration, and then Hextech Gunblade makes it so he can 1v9, and then Jeweled Gauntlet is just the best damage item. So I think these 3 are the best items, and then after that you want to stack as many chalices as possible. Both chalices work, the Chalice of Malice and the regular chalice buff up the Vel'Koz to like Super Saiyan levels, I'd say, and he just goes like bzzz and kills everything. But yeah, you round out this comp with the tank Rel. If you have a lot of tank items, throw them on her. It doesn't really matter which items you get. I like having some sort of Gargoyle Stoneplate and Warmogs has been really helpful, but literally anything can go on her. You could add in Mystics with Kindred. Kindred's nice because she keeps Vel'Koz alive, but you could really run anything for this extra slot. And if you get a Kale 2, you could run Kale 2 as well and run a bunch of tanks. Now onto the next tier, we have the B tier. Renewer Coven is the newest comp, I would say. And it's not like new, but it's like wasn't really played that much. I did a video on it like yesterday or something like that, so definitely go check that out if you haven't already. It's in the gameplay guide right here. And if you guys want more information on like how do I see all this stuff, it's all on my website, bunnymuffins.lol, and just click like meta snapshot or whatever is like on the front page because it's pretty easy to find. But yeah, I played this comp. I didn't have Lissandra 3 and I still tore through everything. And I think if you get like a really good Lissandra start, such as having like 5 Lissandras at the start of the game, it is a very devastating comp and can really snowball a lot of games with like a lot of potential to get like first place after going like a fast 9 from the 3-star Lissandra and then just adding in like a ton of strong units. Really fun to do as well because with blue buff, Jeweled Gauntlet, she just like ults constantly and the Jeweled Gauntlet adds a ton of damage. It's really funny to see. Next up we have Reroll Ven. Like the 2 reroll comps, I'd say these 2 are the best. And Reroll Ven is a little different. You want Sacrificial Jeweled Gauntlet on her because she does not suffer from the downside of this item. And then Runon's Hurricane, of course, to get more procs, and then Gwynsu's for more attack speed. And this comp is just like a bunch of tanks plus Vayne and 6 Forgotten because, yeah, Forgotten gives her more ability power, which is pretty nice. And yeah, you want Ashe for Rangers because, well, it just does a lot for... It just adds a lot more attack speed to Vayne, so that's just pretty straightforward. But this comp is good if you get a lot of Vaynes early and you have some items for her. And if you're doing some sort of Draven build and you use Vayne as an item holder, or if you're building Jeweled Gauntlet because you think you're going either Vel'Koz or Karma, and you're just using Vayne as an item holder, it's great to go for if you just all of a sudden happen to get a lot of Vaynes. That's when I typically would go for this composition. But again, like, these 2 comps, while they're great, I'd really just go for the A and S tiers because if you practice those, you'll be good for like pretty much the rest of the set because it's kind of like just a rotating cycle of which 4-cost carry is the best. That's essentially what TFT's always been about. So if you learn those, it's going to suit you well in the long term. So Hellion Reroll, I adjusted this build a bit. So a lot of people were going ability power Ziggs before, but I find that static Shiv builds are the best. So if you just build static Shiv and then a bunch of attack speed items on Ziggs, I feel like that's like a really strong build. And you could go like multiple static Shivs, you could add in a Rage Blade, you could do Shadow Zeeks, so many different options because, yeah, he just attacks so quickly. You get more static Shiv procs than like a Ranger comp, so Hellion is absolutely really funny to look at when you have this combination. I do recommend you try it, and while this build is still strong as a reroll, I just think the other 2 that we looked at before are a little better. Assassin Leblanc, you could still play this, it's just not that great. I don't really recommend it. But you just run as many assassins as you can. A dark blue buff is still okay on LeBlanc. It's not completely broken anymore, but you might want to explore more into the Nocturne carry or the Katarina carry and only build like 1 or 2 items on LeBlanc instead of 3. Next up, we have Draconic Zyra, and both the Draconic comps, they fell out of favor a lot. They're still good if you get an early start for them, don't get me wrong, but they're just not at the same power as they was before, and that's because people discovered how to play the game better. So all these like super greedy builds just got slightly worse, but I'm sure they'll find a place in the future meta if things get adjusted. But it's still decent to play if you have it. And once they rebuff Abominations, because they just like took Abominations out of the game, once they buff them back up, I feel like this comp will get a lot better. Next up, Skirmishers. This is a 4-cost comp that like hasn't really shined quite yet. And that's just because all the other ones are just that much better. You need like Caustic Quicksilver on Jax because he'll just get CC'd too much because he's a melee unit. And that just means you have 1 less item for damage, which is a little awkward. So you really need the 6 Skirmisher buff, and then you really need a Jax too. If not, he just dies because he's tanking in the front line. So it's a lot of like mixing and matching with this comp, which just makes it a lot worse than the range carries such as Vel'Koz, Karma, Aphelios, and Draven. But once they buff this up a little bit, I could see Jax being pretty good. Next up, Draconic Ashe. Same story as Draconic Zyra. It's like all the greedy builds got kind of punished a little bit because people figured out how to play the game. And yeah, maybe they need a tiny buff. I'm not really too sure. If you get like an early Draconic start, obviously you can play this comp, but it's not something I would like force every game by any means. Seer tier and below, Nightbringer Yasuo. I've seen a couple of these, but nothing like that crazy. They don't do like amazing or anything. But like I've seen it before. Like they win a couple of rounds or whatever, but like just don't play this yet until someone actually figures out a good build. Same with these other 2 compositions. But yeah, I also updated the item priority, which is, I think Glove is the most important because it allows you to flex Draven and the Jeweled Gauntlet builds. So I think Glove is just by far the best item. After that, Sword and Bow, because Draven and Aphelios are what I think are the best comps right now. And then after that, it really doesn't matter. Tier is useful because you need blue buff for a couple of comps. I like building Redemption a lot. Frozen Heart is good. Static Shiv is good in some comps. And then, yeah, after that, it's like, whatever. I prefer not to get the bottom 4 items. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that there are other things to go for instead. But that's pretty much the tier list for this week. I'll try to keep this video short. But just to sum up, we have, like, the 4 comps at the top. It's like the trifecta, except it's 4 people, so maybe it's like quadfecta. I don't know if that's a word. But yeah, Draven, Aphelios, Karma, Vel'Koz. Master these 4 comps, and you will do really well this entire set. Just because at least 2 of these are going to be meta at all times, I think. And yeah, it might as well start practicing them right now. After that, the rerolls are fun. I did a reroll Coven game already. I'll try some Vayne reroll later, probably, and then, like, yeah. I played some of these other comps, but it was in hyperroll, so not in ranked yet, because I've really only been forcing Draven on my, like, account that I'm playing on right now. But more on that later, because I will be releasing how to get to Diamond video with only Draven, and then Masters and Grandmasters, and hopefully Challenger after that, too. And I'm literally only going to play Draven for every single game on one of my accounts, so definitely look out for that. But yeah, if that's of any interest to you, like, go ahead and subscribe below, and I will see you guys later.